Awesome. Yeah, I think let's keep it moving. I just want to get it.
I just think that's my hair started shaking. It was $6 maybe it's that screen.
Yeah.
And just started moving to
BMI and all that.
everything.
Yeah.
So like my lean muscle mass is like short.
Yeah.
The WB and 0%. So,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Huh?
I know, that's happy. I got like 90%. So, you know, my ideal weight is probably 240, so I'm down to 2.
No, it's.
Well, another thing too, is like, Mr. Brown. That was not gonna happen. So much shit, things about the virus, then we really buy it, but I don't say, hey, this. So the parents, and that's what how many people got it? Right, and so I mean, literally our future, like. My junior runs back in 28.
Now, you know, things going on. That's what I had, and it's like, to, that will attack. I'll be like.
Yeah.
Hey, Meg, can you hear me?
I'm going to go ahead and get started because I want to talk to you before I get into the class part. I'm Kathy Chiero. I know most of you. Before I get started, I just kind of want to ask you if you'll fill me in. How are your businesses going and what are your problem areas? Like, where are you struggling?
So for me, I'm brand new.
Yeah.
And so lead generation is still,
Yeah.
you know, a constant and ongoing trudge.
Yes.
So, and
I've been doing it for 30 years and it's a constant and ongoing.
yeah, so I'm sure that that's not going to really change.
No.
But
Just
that's
good at it now.
That's really where I'm struggling the most is, am I doing the right things? Should I be doing more of one thing or not the other? You know,
Sure.
that's kind of where I'm at. So,
Good. Well, congratulations for trying.
thank you.
Anybody else? What are your problem areas right now? Do you still like the business? Did you like, you made the biggest mistake of your life getting into it? Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm Brad Williams. I just came off of a pretty active month, but I feel like it's so cyclical and I'm trying to bridge the gaps a little bit between the busy months and then nothing.
It's really hard. If you saw what I made this last year, in November, I'll have trouble making a budget. It's the same thing there. That's very common. And that's a really hard challenge to have sort of that steady pipeline, especially in a varying market like we have now. But the market is kind of like it is. It's really difficult to keep that solid pipeline of, you know, same number of closings. Because you're over here working over here, and then you've got to get over here to generate, and you over here again. So yeah, that's a very common problem. Anybody else? Any comments about the market or what you're facing? All right, well, let's start. I want to talk about a few things. Number one, I've been in the business, this year will be 28 years. I've been through 3 markets. I've been through a very normal market. And for those of you, definition of a normal market is that we have a pretty even supply and demand. So when I got my license in the mid-90s, up until about 2005, we always had 15,000 homes on the market in Central Ohio. That meant that you could get a buyer, you could take them out, show them 10 or 15 homes. If they didn't find one they liked, you go out next week, show them another 10 homes. They found one they liked, they could say, okay, Kathy, you know, we really like that one. Next day off is Saturday. Could we go back on Saturday for a second showing? There was a very good chance that home would still be there. You showed it, you made an offer, every term in the contract was negotiable. They could have a home to sell, didn't matter. We would, you know, go to contract. That was a normal market. Average days on market was around 90. And everybody was thrilled. We thought we had a great market nationally because our days on market was only 90 days. So that was a pretty, what we call an average market. We call it average because it was equal supply and demand. Then between 2005 and 2012, we hit a recession. what we began seeing was that we doubled the number of homes on the market. We had almost 30,000. Can you imagine that today? 30,000 homes on the market. That's where we began having sellers have to bring checks to closing to be able to sell their homes, pay off the mortgage. We had literal tears at listing appointments when homeowners found out what their homes were not worth. We had buyers saying they didn't want to buy a house because the appliance brands didn't match. We had buyers playing sellers against each other instead of multiple offers coming into the seller. We had buyers throwing out multiple offers to sellers and saying, you know, even though I made this offer, I'm not fully accepting it until you accept it, and then I'll sign it again. Anybody remember that? Dave, you're in the business? Jill was in the business. And so that was making the sellers feel taken advantage of, because why am I negotiating if I'm not gonna? And so it was a complete switch. During the recession, we saw homes go down in value by double digits during that period. Then somebody turned on a light switch in 2013, and off to the races again. Since 2013, we have rarely had more than 5,000 homes on the market. Very rarely. We thought 5,000 homes on the market was a tight market until COVID hit, and then post-COVID, we've rarely had more than 3,000 homes on the market. So right now we have about 20% of the inventory we have. And as you all are aware, we have seen interest rates continue to go up. So what, and I have this, in fact, I'll ask you, Dave, do you think this market is worse than the recession?
Yes.
Yes. Jill, is this market worse than the recession?
Absolutely.
Kimberly, is this market?
By far.
Yes, okay. So we thought the recession was hard because we had so much inventory, and we had very few buyers because we had a tough economy. I'm telling you right now, every veteran agent I talk to says this is absolutely the hardest market they've ever sold in. And why? Because we are bakers without any bread on the shelf. And if you have nothing to sell, you're essentially out of business. So what happens as a realtor is the listing agents are the only guaranteed income you have. And it is a race to the bottom for listings. I had a homeowner call me, and I've been out to their home twice, and I called them to follow up. They were going to be listing in November. I said, I'm just checking in to see how that's going. You know, well, we had a realtor who offered to do it for 4%, and he's a handyman and will do all our repairs for us. Okay, well, I'm not doing either of those things. So again, but it is that carnal market that people are just trying to stay alive. I have watched many realtors, just like we saw during the recession. You see your colleagues waiting tables, working at Aldi's, and doing what they have to do because we just don't have the market that we had. Even with the very low supply, what has happened is that the doubling of interest rates has really cleared the table of qualified buyers. When the money was essentially free, we had a lot of buyers who could afford the money. Now, when the money is costing more, it's still, in my opinion, not a high interest rate, but now that it's costing more, it has largely cleared the table. So what does that leave us as realtors? What it leaves is the survival of the fittest. What it leaves is the agents who are going to survive this market are going to be the ones who learn lead generation, who learn consistency, who learn how to be productive, even when you have a day ahead of you with essentially nothing to do, with no outside client appointment. So we're going to talk about that. But I wanted to touch on before we get to that, because one of the things I'm kind of watching this buzz on social media is this sort of in-house panic about these lawsuits going on that are going to shake up commissions. And what I hear is this alarmist verbiage that buyers agents are not going to get paid anything, and we're going to have to work with our buyers and maybe get $500 for them. And I have done a lot of deep dive reading about this. I have talked to people, I've talked to attorneys, talked to various realtors, and I just want to calm a lot of that. If you really read into the lawsuits that are going on, and quite frankly, that we are likely to lose if you count losing, meaning that we are not going to be able to do business as the way we've done it in the past. When you really look into it, it is not so much of, okay, buyer's agents can no longer be paid. The real issues at hand and what will be decided by the courts are more disclosure issues, of more conversation about who's getting paid what, is that payment negotiable, and upfront negotiation, so everybody's very clear on where the money is coming from. One of the things I handed out to you right now is a listing with an agent, local agent here named Joan Elfline. And I talked to Joan on the phone this morning about this, because when I really started reading into what the issues were, I thought to myself, you know, Joan's been doing this for 15 years. She told me this morning, since 2005. But Joan Elfline is a broker in Columbus whose niche is, she determined that she did not want to be a full service listing broker. And what she did was she began marketing people who wanted to buy their way onto the MLS. And she has a sliding fee for her services. I don't even know what they are, but I'm going to make up some numbers. Maybe she charges $1,000 and you want to sell your home, and I'll put you on the MLS for $1,000. Do you want a lockbox? That's another $100. Do you want the pictures taken for you? That's $500. So it's a cafeteria style charging. And at the end of the day, when they get an offer, do you want me to negotiate for you? That's 1%. So she has allowed the homeowner to essentially do it for sell by owner, but they're on the MLS. She puts them on the MLS and she has a thriving business right now. I looked today, she has 19 listings. That's probably more than some of the top listing agents in the city. However, if you look at the second page, first of all, if you look down on the MLS at what she's agreed to pay the buyer's agent, what does it say? $3. She's offering $3 to the buyer's agent, okay? Now, the reason it says $3, and this is one of the things being contested in a lawsuit, is because right now, in order to be a member of the National Association of Realtors and the Ohio Association of Realtors, you have to offer the buyer's agent some form of compensation just to be in the MLS. That's one of the things that's being contested. And it may very well come out that say that's an antitrust violation and you have to let everybody in whether or not they pay buyer's agents. So she put on here $3, that's what she's offering. However, she puts in the agent remarks, look at this addendum, go to the addendum. So this is a document that she sits with her homeowner and says, let me explain to you how the MLS works. The MLS is a web-based system that shares your home with 10,000 realtors here in Columbus. And it also shares with them what you are willing to pay to have them bring their buyers to your home. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I want you to fill in what you want to pay that buyer's agent, and it can be anything. She goes, I tell them it can be 0. You want to put 0. It can be 5%. It can be somewhere in the middle. You can offer a flat fee. You can do anything you want. Let me tell you the likely outcome. If you don't offer anything, well, I'm not sure how many people are going to beat down your door to show your property. If you offer 3%, that's standard in our industry. Probably every agent will show your property. If you offer more than that, you might have more interest in your property. And if you offer less than that, you know, they will, it's just whatever the agent wants to be paid. Now, and she goes, very often I'll get the question from my homeowner, well, what do you suggest? And she'll say average is between 2 and 3%. And she goes, probably 70% of them choose 2.5%. She goes, that's just what they do. She goes, in my entire 18 years of doing this, only twice have I had a homeowner that said they did not want to pay anything. She goes, what that tells me is that homeowners recognize the value of having a realtor represented buyer on their home. They don't want an unrepresented buyer. They want a buyer who knows what they're doing. They want a buyer who's pre-approved. They want a buyer who knows how to walk through the steps, and they're willing to pay that. She goes, the next thing I say to them is, okay, let's just make sure in the list price, you have allowed for paying that buyer's agent that fee. They go, I'm fine. If I get this list price, I'm willing to pay that. And if I have to negotiate off that price, I won't negotiate further than what I'm comfortable with paying this fee. What does it sound like? A normal market? That's what we used to do, you know, that's what we used to do. We would put a home on the market, someone would offer less than list price, and the seller would factor in all of their selling fees and say, yes, I'm willing to go to that price, or no, I'm not willing. So all she's doing is up front is disclosing all that to the seller, and then that becomes the offered compensation to the buyer. Now, what I think is going to change as we move forward, I think you're going to have this same thing on the buyer's end. We're going to have one of the pillars of this NAR complaint to NAR is that the buyer has never been clear that they're actually paying their agent through the price of the home. And in fact, many agents have told their buyers it's free. I don't cost you anything, which has never been true, or else you wouldn't be in the business. So what is true is that a realtor's commission is built into the price of the home. So by virtue of the buyer paying for that home, they are paying their agent. And quite frankly, in the last several years, they've been paying me and the buyer's agent because they're paying over list price. So they're many times absorbing all of the seller's fees in what they're paying. So what, and don't hold me to this because I'm not an expert, but the common sense answer to me is that they are going to require full disclosure on both sides, that the seller has full disclosure. You can pay whatever you want. My fee is X, and that's negotiable, as well as, do you want to offer anything to the buyer's agent? Because the buyer, you know, to get a represented buyer, what do you want to offer them? And then on the buyer's end, you're going to look at this, and first of all, it's going to press many agents to do what they should have been doing anyway, and having buyer meetings with their buyers before they go out. Nobody just shows up and puts a lockbox on a home. We have a listing appointment, and we talk about our services, and we sell our value, and they say, well, I'm interviewing 4 other agents. Okay, well, I'm competing with those agents for your business, and part of that competition is, what am I going to charge you to do it? And then we all sign paperwork, and then the lockbox goes on. But on the buyer end, you want to see a house? Let's go, I'll meet you there. There's no verification, there's no vetting of them many times. So what it's going to force a lot of them to do, a lot of agents are going to have to start to do business correctly. And that is, do you want to see a home? I'd like to sit down with you. I'm going to go over with you the process of buying a home, the cost of buying a home, and part of that cost is my fee as your real estate agent. And then you're going to sit down with them and say, look, one thing that I believe will come out of this lawsuit is, right now the buyer cannot see, when they're looking on the consumer end, they cannot see what you're getting paid. And that's another complaint in this lawsuit, is that it is not publicly disclosed. So I think you're going to see some public disclosure. In fact, I think our listing agreements are going to change, and then we're all going to have buyer agreements, and we're going to say, okay, on this particular home, the seller has agreed to pay me 2.5% to show it to you, and I'm fine with that. I will work for 2.5%. However, and this conversation is going to have with the buyer. However, that is the minimum that I will work for. So should we come across a house that the seller's only offering 1,000, or 1%, the additional 1.5% is going to have to come from you. And let me share with you my value as to why that's worthwhile for you. Okay, to do that. Now, that's what buyer's agents have not been accustomed to doing. Now, here's where it gets gray and sticky, is that, and this is one of the hotly contested things about this whole thing, is that one of what I believe is a true legitimate warning in this is that if you put the onus or the responsibility for paying the buyer's agent onto the buyer, especially and Joan said this morning, any house under 400,000, you're going to have buyers who can't afford that. They've saved their money for their down payment, but they do not have the additional $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to pay you. So what is in danger of is that we build a culture of the have and the have-nots. How many of you are familiar with the whole cash bail argument in California or in Chicago? Anyway, the cash bail argument is that we want to get rid of cash bail because it builds a tiered society. Rich people can get out of jail because they can make bail. Poor people get stuck in jail because they can't afford bail. We're going to see the same thing in home buying. The young rich kid whose parents can give him money to pay their realtor is going to be able to buy a home. The young buyer who has worked to save their down payment, all that, doesn't have the extra money, they're going to be shoved out of the opportunity for wealth building and home ownership. So I think that argument's going to have some merit, and they're going to work in something that allow. You might see lender rules change where the realtor's commission can be built into the price of the home. I think we'll see something where the industry shifts to accommodate that need for the buyer's agent to be compensated. The other fear is if it gets down to, well, all I can afford to pay you as a buyer's agent is $500. Well, nobody's going to work with that buyer. That buyer is going to be cut out of representation because a realtor won't work for them. And they'll all run to the buyers who say, yes, I can afford to pay you $6,000, $7,000. So the one thing I do believe will come out in this court case is the inequity of that's got to be resolved somehow. That the buyer's agent has to be fairly compensated. It must be disclosed to the buyer. And if the buyer does not have the money, then it can somehow be built into the transaction to be paid. Because honestly, it's already being done. It's already when a lender approves a loan on a home, part of the purchase price of that home is realtors getting paid. So I am maybe Pollyannic about it, maybe I'm being naive, but the other thing I showed you and I handed out to you today is this sheet right here. This is why I think they'll work it out. Because this is the real economy of home sales. This is Ohio. This is how much money goes into the economy every time a home is sold here in Central Ohio. $72,800. You know what? We are half of what California and Arizona and Nevada is. That is almost 17% of the state gross national product of income into the state. So I think if nothing else prevails, money will prevail. And people will say, look, we cannot disrupt the buying and selling of homes outside the individual wealth building, and that it's good for our culture, good for our society, good for people to own homes. This is what the state and our local economy is making off of every home that's sold. And jurors and legislators are going to protect that. I just don't think they're going to that's the reason, you know, as much argument is over it, I don't think we'll ever see the taxes on real estate become not tax deductible. They tried to cut away at it, but the reason is because home ownership is great for our economy, great for the local economy, and great for wealth building and generational wealth in general. So I tend to be optimistic. I think there'll be a skirmish and a battle, and a lot of attorneys will get rich over it. But at the end of the day, I think what it will do is it won't change a whole lot of the way we do business. We already see our commissions deteriorating as it gets more competitive. And that may happen. We may not get an automatic 3% every time. But I do not believe, and it's one of the reasons I bring this up today, I do not believe that these alarmist things people are saying online, that, oh my gosh, buyer's agents aren't going to get paid anymore. We're going to have to, you know, be scraping quarters from under our car mats. I don't believe that. I believe that we're going to just see a more open negotiation of what that commission is, but we will all move on and do well. Yes.
Do you see, my thought is that I think that it's going to force the profession to go up a couple of notches.
Oh, it's gonna, that's why I said the cream is gonna rise to the top. And what you're gonna have is these one-off realtors who are selling a house here and there, making $10,000 and sitting around for 3 months and then going and doing it again. you're gonna see that go to the wayside, because it's gonna force professionalism. You're gonna have buyers able to shop for buyer's agents the way they do turkeys on Kroger's and Thanksgiving. They're gonna look for the best, they're gonna look for value, and they're gonna be able to compare. So what it's gonna force you to do is make a value proposition. Why am I worth this to you? And in fact, one of the things I printed out as I was researching this, this is one article I read, said these are the practices that are likely to change. The brokerage will prohibit company-owned brokerages and their affiliated agents from claiming that the buyer's agent services are free. You can't do that. The brokerage will require company-owned brokerages and their affiliated agents to include the listing broker's offer of compensation, which is this: what are you offering me? To the buyer's agents as soon as possible on every active listing, consistent with MLS rules or other third-party website operators. The brokerage will prohibit company-owned brokerages and their affiliated agents from using any technology to sort listings by offers of compensation unless requested by the client. Again, that was another complaint. Not our MLS, but Realtor.com and Zillow and some of those, it was found out that they had mechanisms inside that made you go to the top if you were paying 3%, and if you're only paying 2%, you're at the bottom. So they're one of the lawsuits saying you can't do that anymore. You can't rank by that. It says further, the brokerage will advise and remind company-owned brokerages, franchisees, and affiliated agents that the company has no rules requiring offers of compensation. So again, as Joan has said, I go to my seller and said, there's no requirement for you to offer anything. Although now, right now there is. That's the reason she puts the $3 on there, just to put something there, because that has been a requirement to be in the MLS, is that you have to offer something to the buyer's agent. That's likely to go away. But does that mean that every seller automatically is going to say, well, I'm not offering them anything? No, because common sense tells you if I don't offer anything, nobody's going to show. Why would I come show your home? So there, but what it does is it puts the homeowner in some level of control to say, okay, this is what I want to offer them. The other thing Joan told me this morning, she gets a lot of clients who are very high end. If you have a $2 million home, do you really want to pay $70,000 to your listing agent to sell it? No. And so she says what I'm getting a lot of is high-end clients who say, look, I think it's fair to offer the buyer's agent something, but I think $70,000 is way more than they should get paid for representing a buyer. I'll offer them a flat fee of $25,000. You know, and then the seller's mind, that's plenty of money to come show at my house. So she said almost none of her seven-figure listings, almost none of them, they're all flat fee. They will all just put a flat fee. You bring a buyer, this is what you get on it. So again, this also says that the new laws will require company-owned brokerages, blah, blah, blah. They will not have to belong to NAR or subscribe to the NAR Code of Ethics or MLS Handbook. In other words, they're breaking the monopoly. They're saying we do not have to do all that to be part of the MLS. Now, we're going to read this comment, because under this article were all these people's comments on this. And this is what one woman wrote. She said, and I don't know where this was not in Columbus. Will someone please define a real estate professional? I sold my 2 rental homes online using an MLS service after firing my do-nothing realtor from Baird & Warner. It's the name of the brokerage. Both times, the buyer found the house online and told their realtor about it. Realtors in both cases were do-nothing worthless, so I guess I just defined realtors. So again, that is the impression you're going to have to work to change. So in answer, Kimberly, absolutely, you're going to see, first of all, I think just the cost of doing business is going to knock a lot of agents out of this business. But what it's going to do is you're really going to have to up your game. You can't just pick up a Zillow lead and run out and show a house, you know, because again, that buyer has the right to ask you what they're paying you and say, well, Joe down the street said he would do it for this, which by the way is exactly what listing agents do all the time now. I mean, we hear that all the time. So yes, that's going to make it says that in the summary judgment, it says that the, legal officer in this case urging realtors to make clear their value to consumers early and often, and explain the services realtors provide, how compensation works. She recommended agents use the buyer representation agreement, which, as Mark was saying earlier today, are going to become mandatory, not just if you feel like it, and where commission details can be discussed and explained. So you're gonna have to talk about the hard, instead of just talking about down payment and closing costs, you're gonna have to bring your commission into the conversation. And so that becomes part of your education. And if what the seller is offering, you are not willing to work for it, where it becomes difficult, because it will vary. If you're showing a buyer 20 homes, there might be 20 different compensation offerings. So you have to decide what you're willing to work for, explain it to your buyer, and say, if the seller has agreed to pay me that, we're great, we'll just make the offer. But if not, I'm gonna be coming back to you with the conversation of getting compensated for doing that. And agents are just gonna have to be comfortable with that, and I think that alone is gonna clear the table of a lot of agents who say, no, I liked it the old way better. Or it just showed up, yeah.
Do you think it'd be fair to speculate that dual agency has seen an uptick?
See an uptick on it? I don't know. I mean, first of all, dual agency nationally is illegal in most states, in the United States. Ohio is one of, I think, 12 states that still allows dual agency. So I actually think, I personally think dual agency should be illegal. If you ever read what the rules are on dual agency, it's not possible. You can't do it. It says you have to fairly, wisely, and accurately advise both buyers. Well, if you have conflicting interests, you can't do that. I long ago stopped doing one agent dual agency. I won't do it. If someone wants to buy one of my listings, I hand them to one of my assistants. I had some houses recently that even my assistants don't want, so hand them out. But my point is that, you know, whereas dual agency defines any agent from Keller Williams Greater Columbus, any agent on my team, and me, I won't do it. And boy, that causes a confounding conversation when you're dealing with investors, and they've never run into that before. They say, well, I don't have an agent and I'm using you because you'll get double the payment. And I'll say, well, let me just stop you right there. I'm not going to do that. If you want to buy my listing, I'm going to send you one of my assistants. Well, no. We want to work with you because you get, that's okay. Let's stop you right there. I'm going to send you to one of my assistants. So number one, I don't know if there will be an uptick in dual agency, but where it makes and Joan and I talked about this morning, that's going to have to be hashed out legally. Because if I'm listing my home with you, here's the way it is now, and there's a vague but important difference. Right now, if I list my home with you and you agree to pay me 6%, that whole 6% is mine. I don't have to share it with anyone. But the listing agreement says that it's okay with you, the homeowner, if I choose to share that money with the buyer's agent, okay? So it's my money that I'm agreeing to share. So in the past, whenever I've had people say to me, well, I want to come to you as an agent because I want to negotiate the commission, I always shut them down. Well, this has nothing to do with you as a buyer. I've negotiated this with the seller, they're paying me that. So what I choose to do with it has nothing to do with you as a buyer. But now here's the way that would change. All of a sudden, my listing commission is 3%, and you are offering, the seller is offering as buyer agent compensation, let's for sake of math say 3%. So if I'm a dual agent, do I get the whole 6%? Or do I only get my 3%? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do I get my 3%? But now what do we do with that other 3% that I offer to, you know, another buyer broker? That's gonna have to be spelled out legally, because now the law is going to make us separate those two payments. It's no longer me to you, it's now me to you from the seller, and that becomes an argument, that becomes a negotiation between the seller and the buyer broker, not me. So that's a good question, and even Joan, was talking to Joan this morning, she said, I don't know how that's gonna hash out. Yeah, Kimberly.
Well, what's gonna be interesting is because if I'm not mistaken, in the buyer's agreement, it basically, says that you're working for the buyer.
Right,
You are putting the buyer's best interest
right.
utmost. So you therefore cannot have a dual agency.
Yeah, I thought that's the case for 20 years. I've always thought dual agency was, there's no way to do it legally. There's no way to do one agent, dual agent legally, in my opinion.
So I don't see how going forward you could be a buyer's agent and try to then turn into a dual agent, because both contracts are gonna be specific. You know, I represent you, Mr. Seller, and Mrs. Seller,
Yeah.
and buyer, I represent you.
Well, yeah, and I agree. So that's what, I guess what I'm saying here, yes, Rima.
How do you see that affect the prices of the home? Because if the buyer now is paying my commission, now it is now paying me, I mean, how is it, he is paying me now directly through the title company, and they're gonna know that my commission is gonna be partly paid by the buyer. I mean,
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna come very close to what we already do with for sale by owners. And again, this is back when a for sale by owner, before they could get 10 offers, still being for sale by owner. When in a normal market with a for sale by owner, I would go up to Joe, the homeowner, and I'd say, Joe, I have a buyer interested in your home, and are you willing to pay an agent? Yes, yes, he is. And I would say, okay, can I ask you how you got your home? How you got your price? Well, I did 300,000 because the home just like it sold for 300,000. Okay, but Joe, they sold with a realtor who paid a 6% commission, so I'm going to take 6% off your price, and that's where we're starting, right there. Okay, so again, I think the same thing's going to happen. If we end up having this influx of people who are listing their homes, now again, the listing agent is going to use the same method to price the home, and they're going to be, you know, looking at comparable sales around it. If that seller says, yes, I want to price it like my neighbor's home, but I only want I don't want to pay the buyer's agent anything. Well, now that's all public knowledge. When I'm looking at comparable sales, I can also see what everybody got paid on there. And so now I can say, okay, well, to the listing agent, I'm representing the buyer, they are paying me, and your home is priced relative to other homeowners who paid their buyer's agent, so I'm going to take that off the price to start the negotiation. Now, my opinion is it's not going to come to that, because I just don't think we're going to have a whole lot of homeowners saying, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent anything. Because I think the economic reality is you're not going to have buyer's agents willing to work for nothing. You're not going to have a huge number of buyers able to pay their buyer's agents. And so the common sense thing is, let's just go back to the way we've always done it, which is to build that into the price of the home, offer the compensation, and just disclose to everybody what we're doing on here. So, but in answer to your question, yeah, if I'm representing a buyer and that buyer is writing me a check at closing, I'm gonna look at the sales of homes and I'm gonna take that check out of the price of the home before I make an offer, because that seller isn't paying and is not coming out of their pocket anymore. So again, I think there is a shift coming. I think there is a disruption, but I don't think it's cataclysmic. I think it is going to, we're going to see commissions start to come down. They already have been. We already see an eroding of commissions. In the past 10 years, we've seen that. I just think you're going to see a lot. I think you're going to see more paperwork, more disclosure, more conversation, and buyers agents are going to have to be professionals. They're going to have to compete for business just like listing agents do, to get the business. And I think it's like anything else. We'll talk about it here in a minute. Lead generating. You're still going to have a word of mouth business where you did a great job for somebody. They tell somebody your worth, your value, and then the next, you know, you have other clients come along right behind it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about lead generation. I had an interesting conversation. I had an agent call me recently who was leaving her team that she was on with another brokerage, and she said, I'm interested in joining a team. And I said, okay. So we were talking, and she goes, can I ask you how you divide up your Zillow leads. I said, I have never in 28 years bought a lead. I've never done that. So I told them I don't buy Zillow leads. I don't do that. And there's like dead silence on the other end of the phone. She was a fairly new realtor. She had her license 2 years. She was doing well. She had, I think she said 9 or 10 closings this year. Every one of them was a referred Zillow lead from her previous team leader who was spending $5,000 or $6,000 a month buying Zillow leads. And she was very good at those leads. She was very good at turning them. Obviously, she was doing well at them. Now, she was giving 50% of her income to her team leader. But her assumption was that that's the only way to get business is to be out there buying leads. And I said to her, I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't buy leads. And frankly, I think that, you know, that whole method of business has only been around for about 10 years. Believe it or not, a whole lot of us were in this business, never buying a lead, you know, until buying leads became a thing. And I said, I wish you well finding another team leader who will buy those leads for you. But I said to her, I said, Tammy, let me be honest with you. If you want to be in this business 20 years from now, you better find a way to get leads that's not buying leads. You better figure out how to sustain your business organically and through lead generation that doesn't depend on buying leads, or you are going to be giving more money to Zillow or wherever you're buying them from and your team leader, which should be going in your pocket. And so I will tell you, first of all, that I don't consider buying leads as lead generation. Buying leads is buying leads, okay? Lead generation is working to have your phone ring, texts come in, emails from people who want your services because of work that you've put on the ground to do it. So we're going to talk about that. First of all, let's talk about branding, because there's a lot of terms in our business that get commingled and are called lead generation, and they're not. Branding is, what do I do to make my business stand out? Branding is a name, a term, a design symbol, or any other feature that identifies one seller's goods or service as distinct from those of other sellers. And with realtors, it is, what is it about, what do you look like publicly that separates you from everyone else? What is your brand? What comes to mind when the consumer thinks of you and your service? As a realtor, you are your brand. And it's not just the physical features, your logo, your team or group name that create a brand, but also the feelings that consumers develop towards you based on what they see through social media, other marketing efforts, client service. This combination of physical and emotional cues is triggered when exposed to the name, the logo, the visual identity, or even the message being communicated. Now, some of you are so new, you say, my gosh, I don't have a brand. I barely have my name out there to do it. And that's okay. But part of starting in this business and building yourself to lead generation is building that brand. And I'm sorry, I did this on a Mac and it makes it all screwed up. So the first thing I tell people to do is to give yourself a professional look by paying someone to give you that logo or that brand you need. And the wonderful thing about that is that it's dirt cheap anymore to do that, to get somebody to develop a logo for you, a name for you. In fact, your title companies, many of them will do it for you for nothing. If you talk to the graphics people and say, hey, this is my team name, can you help me do a logo? Many of them will, but you've got to start with that because what it means is you're going to look big until you are big. I often tell the story of when I first started Downsize Columbus, and I had a local marketing team do a whole markup for me with logos and icons and all that stuff. We still use it in our branding. I remember one time I got a phone call and I was standing next to Shirley in our admin office, and Shirley picked up the phone and it said, could I talk to the human resources director for Downsize Columbus? And Shirley held onto the phone and she goes, is that you or me? But the fact is the branding made us look a lot bigger than we were. The great thing about being a realtor is you can, with very little money, make yourself look a whole lot bigger. Your brand, your logo, what you look like can make it look like you've been in business for 10 years. Nobody knows that. You just look big. You look big. So that involves having a great logo or brand, having a website, all those things that when people go to, you look bigger and more experienced than you are. So one of the things I talk about branding that is very simple is to go, this is just one website, 99designs.com, and I think actually they've been bought by Vistaprint now. But 99designs.com, anybody used it? Anybody got it? What was your success with it, Rod? Did you?
I threw something out for a flipping business.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they turned around a lot of really good options.
Yeah, my buyer seminar logo was developed by, it's called Hobson Homes, was developed by 99 Designs. And what you do is you fill out a form, says this is what I want, this is my business, this is the feel I want for it. You throw it in, and miraculously like that, you have designers from all over the world throwing logos at you. And I don't know, I haven't done one in a couple of years, but it wasn't more than $150 when I had it done. And you start looking at them and you think, well, I like that style, I like that style, well, I think I like that designer. You go back to that designer and say, you know what, I really like your ideas, but the color I'm going with is red, as in Keller Williams. Could you tweak some things for me? And they do it back and forth. My designers, for every logo I've done, have been in the Ukraine for whatever reason. They must be good at it there. But in a matter of a few hours, you've got a logo. And that's yours, and they copyright it, send it to you. And then down the road, you decide, okay, I like that logo, but I want to build off of it. I need maybe bullet point icons to use. You go back to that same designer. Remember me, you did this for me a year ago. Could you do this or that for me? Or I'm expanding my business over here. And then they begin sort of a library of logos for you. So again, there's many places like this. I mean, this is now, but that's one that's very simple to do. And I really encourage you to take your next closing, take 10% of it and invest it in yourself in really starting to build that brand. Build what you look like, and you begin to then incorporate that design into your email signature. You incorporate that design into any graphics going out, anything that's going, and all of a sudden you've been in business for 9 months and it looks like you've been around for years. Because you made yourself look like that. Next thing is marketing. And this is again, what marketing is, the purpose of marketing is to bring your brand that you've developed and what you offer as a realtor to a general or targeted audience. So advertising creates opportunities to connect your brand and services with potential customers. Will your marketing work? It's often hit or miss until you find out what reaches your audience, what works and what doesn't. So that's one of the tough things in this business, is to really say, okay, where am I going to spend the resources I have, which is not a lot. And let me back up and say that I do understand what it's like to be new and have no money, but yet I'm telling you to spend money to do something. But there is a place for spending money smartly, for saying, okay, I don't have a lot of money, but I do feel like I could put less than $500 into building a brand and make myself look better, put myself out there. Or I do feel like, I golf at the Muirfield Golf Club a lot, and a lot of people know me there. So maybe that is a good targeted spot to put my business card or buy my placard on a golf cart or whatever it is that's there. That is my space to do that. And so again, you begin to look and say, where is my market? Where is my niche? Where can I put my now created brand in front of consumers that might already know me or that I have something in common with? When you're thinking about that, you're going to define your audience. Who's most likely to hire you? Are you an alumnus, a fan, a relative, a friend, a customer, a member, a leader? Do you golf, swim, boat, play pickleball, go to thrift stores, collect classic cars? Have you had twins, built a house, worked in accounting, sang in a choir, led a platoon? Okay, who are you? What do you do and where are your people most likely to be? I advertise on the radio. I've advertised on 104.9, it's a Christian radio station for going on 25 years now. I do that because that's my people. I mean, they know me. I've been in churches in the area, I do a lot. And so that there is a built-in trust factor there, and that's worth my investment to advertise there. At least twice a year, I get a call from a realtor that says, I know you advertise on the radio, and by the way, it's very expensive to do this, it's thousands of dollars a month. And they'll say, I was thinking of buying an ad during the Ohio State Michigan game on Channel 4. What do you think of that? And I'll say, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you take 6,000 and go throw it on fishing a road and start it on fire? Because you're gonna have the same results, okay? And again, because they're just selectively choosing something that they think are a lot of people will look at, but they have no connection with those people. They're just saying there's a lot of people out there. So again, part of defining your audience is to really look at yourself and say, who do I have in common with? That can be in common based on where I live. It can be in common that my kids all go to Worthington schools. It might be in common that I coach, I sit on bleachers with other moms who have kids playing baseball. It could be whatever it is, but to begin to say, what reason do I have to connect with these people outside of real estate that builds a trust factor because I'm already in the same sort of group with them? That's a great place to start. Now, as you grow, you can go anywhere, but a great place to start is to say, what is my audience? Where do I have a warm ear? What if someone who's going to listen to me because we already have something in common? Then you go from that, you go to lead generation. You say, okay, lead generation is following up on marketing with the hope of connection with the consumer who welcomes your contact because they recognize your branding. So again, lead generation means I'm going to reach out to this group that I have some sort of connection with in some way that they welcome because they know me or they know my branding. So what is a lead? A lead is someone who now or will in the future need a service that you offer. That's a very simple definition of what a lead is. They either right now or sometime in the future will need a service you offer. Now, let me tell you, one of the first problems that realtors face is they want this guy, but they ignore this guy. Okay, we're so eager to make money that we don't have the time or interest to wait for the person in the future, and we're going to talk about that. Lead generation is relationship, and that's the reason I think the Zillow calls and the leads like that are actually really tough because there is no relationship. All they did was get your number off of a website, call you. You know, my son, who's 29 now, works with eXp Realty, and he is on a team where he gets Zillow leads. And number one, he's new, so part of the problems are that he's new. But also, he was telling me how, he goes, Mom, the Zillow leads are so frustrating because there's no loyalty there. I mean, they'll call you and you'll jump on them and you'll cancel everything to go show them a house. And then you find they won't return your phone calls. You'll never hear from them. That's because you have no relationship with them. The only relationship is you answer the phone. And maybe in some kismet world, you might cross and they might trust you and allow you to help represent them, but it's not like the woman that you sat on the PTA with for 6 months and knows you and likes you and calls you one day and says, Mary, I know I've heard you talk about real estate. We're in the market to buy a home. Can you help us? That's relationship. That person's much less likely to say, sorry, I know you showed me houses, but I bought a home with somebody else, because it started with the foundation of a relationship. So if your activity does not involve one-on-one contact in some form, you are not lead generating. You might be marketing, you might be building your brand, but you're not lead generating. What is lead generating? Lead generating is you are making phone calls, you're sending texts, you're going to open houses, you're doing door-to-door contact, you're sending out cards and letters, you are holding seminars or in-person gatherings, You are using digital media to a degree, because again, I want to tip my hat to those of you who are good at social media, doing your videos, really making contact with your sphere, but you've got to be, what I put down here, digital media must be long-term and systematic to be effective and used in conjunction with other forms of marketing. In other words, social media is a wonderful thing, but if you try it for 3 weeks and you're off it for 3 weeks, you don't exist in that world. You guys ever looked at a website or a Facebook page or an Instagram and the last post was 3 years ago? And you ask yourself, are they even still in business? I mean, you know, did they just go to sleep one day and wake up and never touch their Facebook page again or their Instagram? Well, that's very much the same when you get into digital media as a realtor. It needs to be consistent, it needs to be constant, and you have to realize it is a slow drip campaign that will eventually bring you business. And if you quit after 3 months, you've essentially wasted the 3 months you put into it. So I really encourage those of you who are into digital media, take the classes, get educated, understand what you're doing so that your content can be good, it can be engaging, and that you stay consistent at it. But again, the one thing all of these things have in common is not a single one of them is fun. None of it is fun. It's work. It's work and it is constant. But that is what lead generating is. So I'm going to give you an example. One of the things I find is that realtors measure the effectiveness of their lead generating by getting a response. Meaning I sent out a bunch of texts to say, you know, daylight savings time change or whatever, and not a single person responded, okay? I sent out 100 letters to a neighborhood saying that, you know, I had a listing and not a single person responded. And they consider that to be ineffective because nobody responded. I'm telling you that nobody ever responds to anything. I mean, they don't. That's not the point of it. This is an example, and I'm sorry, this is a mess. Let me take this off of here. This is an example of a listing that I had. Hold on, let me take this off here. This is an example. There you go. Okay. This is a listing I had. Gary and Estelle, their name. I met Gary at an open house. Okay. He comes to an open house. I meet him. I talk to him. All of that, I get his information. From August 30th until February of 2023, this is what happened to Gary after I met him. He came to 8 seminars that I did. Again, that's marketing and branding. I probably didn't know he was at any of them. Okay. He didn't come up and talk to me, nothing, just came to the seminars. When I looked at our CRM, he had been the recipient of 24 phone calls, 18 emails, 14 handwritten cards, and 3 in-home visits. That's lead generating. That was over a period of 6 years, and then I listed their home this spring. Okay, now I can tell you that Gary never responded to a single one of those. Okay, so if I'm measuring Gary's interest by did he return my phone call, did he return my email, did he thank me for the birthday card, or did I hear from him after my in-home visit, I would have stopped in year 2 because I would have thought Gary has no interest. But lead generating has to be consistent, ongoing, and 6 years later, he calls me and says, we're ready to sell our home. So that is the first hurdle that you have to get over when you begin lead generating, is recognize that it is a slog. It's many times. Now, occasionally, the gods will shine on you and you'll meet someone at an open house and they'll say, can you come over next week and talk to me about the sale of our home? And you think, I just love this business. But this is the reality. This is much more the reality right here. So what you have to decide is, what am I going to do between 2017 and 2023? How am I going to contact them? What am I going to say? What am I going to do to get engage interest in them? And then we're going to talk about that as well. What's necessary to make lead generating successful is consistency, repetition, commitment to the long term, a system, and a call to action that gives the consumer value. I want to read those again because it's very important. You have to be consistent. It has to be repetitive. It means commitment to the long term. You have to have a system in place and a call to action that gives the consumer value. So let's talk about each of those. Consistency. Here's one of the things that people do when they come to classes or anything. They get all pumped up and say, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take my sphere of influence and I'm going to call them every other week. And then they get burned out because it's not something they can do consistently. And let me back up and not assume anything. You have to start out with a good sphere of influence. You've got to start out with a list of people. And here's how I define a sphere of influence. If you called them or texted them, would they know who you are and would they respond? If the answer is yes, they belong on your list. So if you don't have that list made, and I hope most of you either do or you're in the process of doing it, that's job one. Because you don't do lead generating unless you have a list that you're working from of those people. And on that list, you start in your phone. Look at people in your phone. I have an agent on my team who is, I call her a secret agent because I don't think she wants anyone to know she's an agent. But she goes, Kathy, I feel really bad because these people haven't heard from me in years and all of a sudden I'm going to start texting them. I go, right, you're in sales. That's what you do. So I said to them, okay, show me someone in your phone. She goes, okay, this is a woman that I did yoga class with, but I haven't talked to her in about a year. I said, okay, start a text to her. And I said, give me your phone. I'm going to dictate. Hi, Heather. This is Caitlin. I know we haven't talked in about a year and I hope you're doing well. Are you still doing yoga? Question mark. Hey, I didn't know if you know, but I'm in real estate. And if you have any need to buy or sell, please call me. And I said it. She goes, oh, like, that's it. You just did. You just lead generated. Congratulations, Caitlin. So again, a lot of times it's just making that list. Now, this is where command is a big help to you. In addition to consistency, there's repetition. Now, how much repetition are going to do? I have another agent on my team who at her meeting was kind of getting frustrated. She goes, well, I'm doing all this stuff. And she goes, they're on my list and I'm calling them every other week. And I'm going, whoa, that's way too much. They slow down there. Unless they're a current client, calling them every other week does get annoying. Okay, so I said I would slow that down, but it does need to be consistent and repetition. I have a 7,000 person database. Okay, our database, now I have the help of an ISA, but our database gets a phone call, a card, a text, or an email from me often, or someone on my team every 3 months. They're hearing from me. I never hear back from, almost never. Occasionally they might send me an email and say, hey, good to hear from you. We're fine in our house, but thanks for checking in. But virtually never hear back from them. That's not my point in doing it. But we are consistent. We are consistent. Is that we're consistent, repetitive. We are committed to the long term. Those people are going to hear from us until I'm dead or out of real estate or both. So again, commitment to the long term, a system in place. This can't be just willy-nilly. Well, who did I call last week? I'm going to call this person this week. What you have to do, and again, command is a great source for that, is to have a system in place that you wake up every day and this system tells you who to call and somewhere you can read down and see what your last communication with them is and what they said. You are going to get to the point in this business that you have so much business and you have so many past clients that you really don't even remember who they are when you're sending an email or a text out to them. it doesn't matter. What they're gonna do is respond when they need your help. And then finally, a call to action that gives the consumer value. One of the things I do all the time is I don't believe in those really long emails that are that long. My emails are rarely more than 2 paragraphs. And my latest one says to them, happy fall, I hope you're enjoying Ohio's redeeming season. I'm just checking in to see if there's anything I can help you with. And by the way, I've just created a brochure about getting rid of stuff. I'd love to put that in the mail to you if you would like it. Okay? Hello, call to action. And then or if you don't have anything to send them, would it be helpful to you to know the updated value of your home? Let me know. I'm happy to do that for you. I'll tell you what's really valuable right now. All of your people are getting letters in the mail saying their taxes are going up. You send an email that says, look, do you agree with the auditor's new assessment of your tax value? If not, please let me know. I'm happy to research and give you the data to go to your meeting with the auditor and contest that value. I've probably done 40 of those in the last 2 months as people have been getting. You want to have your client or your person in your database fall in love with you, you go to the trouble of doing an analysis for them and writing a letter for them to take down to the auditor's office that says their taxes are too high. They will name their kids after you if you do that. And for us, it is so easy. It's just running a CMA, giving them a letter and saying, here, take that with you. I had an email this morning. Let me see, I'll read it to you. Second, I'm reading this only because I want you to know what kind of response. She says, this is one of my homeowners who said, I think our tax value assessment is too high. She said, Kathy, thank you so much for your letter and following comparison homes. I've been gathering my thoughts and associated info that I could go in and talk with the auditor's representative about that. Your letter came and a load fell off my shoulders. I just handed him your packet and looking it over, he said, a little hesitantly, what I thought was a fair number, and I just pointed to your paper. It was a good conversation. He said they would look at this and send me a response in December. So now we wait. You are the best. We really appreciate your help. Thank you. Do you think they're going to go to any other realtor when it's time to sell their home? No, because all I did was take 10 minutes and run a CMA on their home and send a letter on their behalf to the auditor saying, I think your assessment's too high. This is what it should be. Okay, that is free. Okay, that doesn't cost you anything to do. And it gives you something to say when you pick up the phone and call or text your person. You just say, hey, I've been thinking about you. And I know a lot of people are getting their Delaware counties right now. Franklin County was in September. But I know a lot of people are getting their tax assessment. I want you to know as a free service to you, if you believe that assessment's too high, let me know and I'll help you contest it. By the way, I hope you're doing well. And if you know anyone that needs to buy or sell, please give me a call. How easy is that? It's a text, it's an email, it's lead generating. That's what lead generating is. So again, it's a call to action and you've given the consumer value for that. Let me show you in real time. This is my calendar here. Let me back up just a second. The reason I show you this is because one of the things you have to do if you're going to lead generate is it has to be pre-planned and blocked off on your calendar. If you don't, you'll be waking up tomorrow morning on Friday and you haven't done anything. You guys can't see this, but this block of time right here, this block right here, this block right here, and this block right here are all lead generating. To this day, I spend 10 to 12 hours a week lead generating. And I block it off like an appointment. Brandon, who helps me with my appointments, he knows that unless it's the only time they can meet, he doesn't schedule when I have lead generating blocked off. Because that's an appointment. That's my job. That's where I'm doing to get business. So one of the things you guys can do, you can go home today and do, is look at your calendar. And even if you're brand new, give yourself 2 hours next week that you have committed yourself to lead generating. Even if you don't know what you're going to do, you're gonna make that an appointment on your calendar that for 2 hours, if I don't have anyone to call, I'm gonna start building my database. I'm gonna start calling people and ask if I can put them on my email list to get newsletters for me. I'm gonna create a newsletter. I'm gonna go online and figure out how to do that. I'm gonna create a newsletter and I'm gonna commit to every month, I'm going to send a newsletter. Who am I gonna send it to? That warm sphere, those people that I know, they're there. I can tell you this, when you call a friend of yours and say, I'm sorry, what you said once new, what's your name? Christy. Christy calls a friend of hers and says, hey, Mary, this is Christy. I know we haven't talked in a while. I want you to know I've gotten I've got my real estate license. I'm really excited about it. You know what would be real helpful to me? Could I put you on an email list to get my newsletter every month? Nobody's gonna say no to that. They're not say no, don't you dare. That is someone who knows Christy and is gonna say, oh, I'm so excited for you. Yeah, put me on your list. Spend 2 hours doing that. If you haven't started anything yet, spend 2 hours, start spending that database. And only 2 hours, okay? And why is that? Because I want you to finish something and feel good about it. I don't mean 2 hours, 5 days a week. Take 2 hours. Then at the end of 2 hours, you can look at yourself and say, what did I accomplish? I added 5 people to my database who gave me permission to send an email or send a newsletter. Some of you can subscribe and pay for something as simple as MailChimp or Constant Contact. Very easy database emails where you can begin to do newsletters. Those are not expensive. I mean, those are, I think, Constant Contact starts at like $30 a month for an individual account, and you can begin to use their resources. Canva has some really inexpensive ways to what's that? Oh, okay, there you go. So again, you've got resources that are not a lot of money that you can begin to sit down. But again, you've got to commit that time to doing it. You've got to commit to that time on your calendar, that just becomes your job. Just like if you worked, you know, down the street in Chase and they said, Joe, you have to be at a meeting from noon to 2, you wouldn't say, yeah, I feel like going to lunch. No, that's your job. You would go to a meeting for noon to 2. That's what it looks like. When I do mine, you know, I have the names every day. I get up, it tells me exactly what to do. Here's a great idea for you. If you haven't done this, you know what's easy information to get on people you know? What's easy information is to find out when they bought their house and then put it in your database to begin sending them an anniversary card every year on the anniversary of when they bought their home. Okay, it's a simple card. There you go. That's 1 contact a year you don't have to worry about. You send that out. Begin making a habit. Every time you close a home, ask your client, what are your birthdays? What is your anniversary? And you now know the anniversary of the closing of your home. There you go. There's 4 contacts that year. You have 4 meaningful contacts that year that you can make to show them. I want to give you another example. This is clients of mine named Jason and Sobe. My first contact with them is I sold their next door neighbor was Jim and Sandy, who attended Downsize Columbus. So Jim and Sandy, between March of 16 and June of 2021, got 6 phone calls, 8 emails, 3 cards, and attended at least 4 seminars of mine, okay? Then Jim and Sandy listed their home. Their next door neighbor was Jason and Sylvia. So Jason's out mowing his lawn and he sees all these cars coming and going next door. He asks Jim about his realtor. That's branding. He sees the sign in the yard. Jim says, oh, she's great. So Jason calls me, 2 meetings, 3 phone calls, 1 note in the mail. Thank you for allowing me to meet with you. And I list their house next door. So again, none of these happened with just a phone call. And yes, Kathy, come list my house. It was regular, consistent contact with them over a period of time resulted. And this was 2 years ago, and I just got a call from Sobe that she and Jason are getting a divorce and they need to sell their new house, which is not a good thing. But again, it is the working of your referral and your database. Again, 5 years of contact to make that. Now you might say, boy, if I have to wait 5 years for a contact, I'm gonna be out of business. I need income. Well, you are building income, but what you wanna do is build your business to the point that that pipeline is consistently bringing you business in because of the contacts that you have made. So again, consistency, repetition, a commitment to the long term, and a system. Lead, nurturing, and follow-up is what we want to do. So key strategies to be prepared, okay? Number one, don't be a secret agent. Let people know what you do for a living. There is nothing pushy about talking to people about being a realtor and being in the business of selling real estate, especially in the kind of market we've had. Everybody's talking about it. So when you overhear conversations with friends and they say, boy, can you believe what that house sold for down the street? Well, you know what? Rob's a realtor, and that begins the conversation. So don't be a secret agent. Have your tools ready. Lack of preparation means no action. What I mean by that is that if you do not sit down and block the time, you're not going to do it. Once you sit down and block the time, have the tools you need to be able to begin that. Have your phone, have your computer, be in a position that you can make those phone calls. I have, at any given time, I have a box in my office of hundreds of birthday cards, hundreds of anniversary cards, hundreds of house anniversary cards, hundreds of thank you cards, hundreds of blank cards that say nothing, and at any given time, hundreds of stamps ready to go. So in that 2 hours, when I get on my CRM and I see that it's someone's wedding anniversary, house anniversary, birthday, I don't have to run out to CVS and buy cards, okay? It's all there, I'm ready to go. If I had to run out to CVS, it would never get done. So I have my ammunition ready, I'm ready to go, that's my job, that 2 hours. I head to the post office, I'm on a first name basis with the post office because I'm dropping mail every single day. I'm dropping mail. Time block with goals. I'm going to talk to X amount of people today in my 2 hours. No response doesn't mean no interest. You go until you hear no. Part of what I do with my database is before I contact anybody, I go and look them up in the MLS. Even if I just contacted them 3 months ago, I go and look them up in the MLS and see if they've sold their home. And sometimes they have. I mean, people use other realtors. That's okay. I heard a no, they're off the list, on I go. Okay, again, so you go until you hear no. Listen for real estate needs and follow up a couple weeks later. And what I mean by that is you're sitting on the bleachers, you're watching a basketball game with your neighbor and you're having this conversation and they're saying to you, you know what, I'm really worried because there's this foundation crack in my basement and I didn't think it was a big deal, but the other day it started raining and some water come in. Do you happen to know a good basement person? Yes, get out your phone, send them a basement person. Okay, call them 2 weeks later. Hey, I'm just curious, what happened with your basement? Is there anything more I can do? Did you get help from the basement company? Again, listen for potential real estate needs and then put it on your calendar. Every time somebody tells me that a friend, family, or self is having surgery, it goes on my calendar. I stop right there and I put Sandy hip surgery, Mary's daughter going into surgery. Why am I doing that? Because within a few days of that, I'm going to text them and say, hey, I was thinking about you. How'd your surgery go? How'd your daughter's surgery go? I am not that caring and compassionate. I am not going to remember, okay, if I don't put it down. But the fact that I put it on my calendar and it becomes a phone call, they write me, I can't believe you remembered that. That is so kind of you. Thank you very much. It is that kind of relationship building that when it comes time for a real estate need, they're going to be in touch with you. Well, remember, Kathy was so nice. Remember when Darren had his surgery and she did blah, blah, blah. Again, so listen to people and make it a part of your contact with it. If some of you, it might come natural. It does not come naturally to me. Okay, I'm the type person that when I get an email that says my mother died, I'm sorry I had to cancel our appointment. Here's what we're thinking. I skip right past the mother died and say, when are we going to meet again? Okay, I have to purposely make myself stop and say that. Some of you are probably much more compassionate and that comes naturally, but that is the kind of connection that endears you and engages you with people and sets you apart from all of your colleagues in what you're doing. Keep good records, details matter. When I go to a listing appointment and they have a dog or cat, I am writing down that dog and cat's name. Okay, because when I contact them in 3 months and I say, hey, Mary, you hear a dog and oh, I hear Buster in the background. Okay, that is music to their ears that you remember their dog's name. Okay, so again, keep good records, make note of them, details matter. And then finally, be a social media troll. Use it to your advantage. One of the things I do every day is I go on Facebook and I see whose birthday it is today. If they are my client, by now, most of them are already in my CRM. I have their birthdays. But if it's somebody new, or even if it's not there, I read through the pages. If someone's celebrating an anniversary, they get a card and it goes in my CRM. So next year I'm reminded that's their anniversary. So by now, having done this for almost a decade, virtually everybody in my database has birthday, anniversary, house anniversary, kids' graduation, they get a card in the mail there. So again, it is constantly being top of mind that everything I'm doing today can contribute to my success if I make that part of my lead generating. Partner with other businesses. This is another thing you can do. Create a win-win with another small business. Give something of value at open houses. When you go to an open house, don't just shake their hand and let them leave the door. Print out other homes in the area that have sold and say, here, just wondering what local homes have sold for. Here's some, brief listing of some of those. Find professionals associated with the sale of homes, offer to do a seminar with them. Divorce, probate attorneys, new build specialists, funeral directors, financial planners. I have a financial planner that contacted me a few weeks ago and said, look, I want to do a money seminar. I'll invite 9 people and you do something on home sales. Let's do it together. So again, win-win for both of us. Offer to sponsor an apartment complex pool party in the summer or holiday party. Offer money off a needed service, house cleaning, tree trimming, window washing. Again, go to another small business owner and say, hey, I want to promote your business. I want to offer something of value to my client. And I know you do tree trimming. Is there anything you could offer that I could send my clients? Well, I'll offer a free analysis of their trees. Okay, great. What are you looking for? Something to offer of value to your clients. So now when you text or call, you say, hey, I know it's that time of year, we're raking a lot of leaves. I have a business that I work with, and they are offering to come out and look at your trees to see if they're healthy. If that interests you, give me a call and I'll pass that on to you. A lot of Chick-fil-A, for example, if you go into Chick-fil-A and say, look, I'm holding an open house down the street, and I would love to give them something at my open house. Do you have any dollar off coupon? They'll give you a card for a free Chick-fil-A sandwich. And you take those to your open house and say, hey, there's a Chick-fil-A right down there on Morse Road. Here's a card for a free Chick-fil-A sandwich. So again, what do you have right now when you're not busy? You have time. This is the kind of things you think of and start putting them into your complex. So again, really look at some of your partners in the business and say, how can we work together to help build each other's business? One of the things I'll point out to you again, because my big thing is card writing, just because that's what I do a lot of. And again, what I find with those cards is that is something that I do get response from. I think people are so shocked that you took time to handwrite a card and put a stamp on it. They will actually text and call me. I have people take a picture of the card after I've received it and text it to me and say, wow, I got this in the mail today. I can't believe you remembered we lived in this house for 10 years. And so again, that is something that is not expensive. It's the cost of cards and a stamp, and become real purposeful about doing it. All right, any questions? Anything any of you are already doing with this that has any kind of response that you've gotten? Yeah,
I stole your house anniversary card idea,
Did you?
and the response has been fantastic,
yeah,
so.
it's so simple. And that's one that you don't have to, you just go to the auditor's office and see when they closed on their home. And what Dave's talking about is I actually had a card made that said happy house anniversary and with my name on it, with a little room for me to write a note. And I have sent out hundreds of those, like over the years. The other thing I do is I note when somebody's spouse dies. So it was a death, father, and I put it on my calendar. And on a year anniversary, I send them a card saying, hey, I believe this was the time of year that John died. I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. That just blows people away, that you would remember a year later, you know, that they had a death. And again, it's not, I'm not saying it's not genuine. It's just not something we would usually remember to do unless we make it part of our lead generating and part of our follow-up on this. Yes, sir.
When I close a home, oftentimes I'll send out postcards to the nearest 200 homes, telling what it's sold for, and just say,
Yeah.
hey, if you're curious what yours is worth. Because a lot of times I find that neighbors are,
Yeah.
they want to know. I've
Yeah.
seen the sign, so.
And I can tell you that when I meet with homeowners and I say to them, you know, hey, what do you think your home is worth? A lot of times I'll pull out, well, I get these postcards from this realtor and they, you know, this is what they said. So you're right. We subscribe to a service called HomeBot. I don't know if any of you do that. That sends out an automatic email every month to your clients saying what's changed in their market what is their home worth. I'm trying to think what it costs. I pay, I think, like $150 a month, but that's because we send out hundreds of them. I think it's pretty cheap if you're sending out like less than 100. But what it shows me is every time those emails are open, and those emails are almost always opened because it says, whatever your address is, here's the new value. It figures their equity in their home, you know, based on what, because it pulls from what they paid for it, and public record and all that. So again, anything that talks about the value of a home, their own home, my subject line, when I send emails out, I don't say, what is the value of your home? I say, what is the value of Main Street? What is the value of Bluebird Lane? What is the value? I put their street in there because again, catches their eye and they they'll open the email to see what that is. So again, it's time consuming. You could call it tedious, but at the same time, that's how you build a database, and that's how you get loyal customers, is that kind of interaction throughout the year.
And if the lender do help with the home lot, they.
Yeah, our lender pays for half.
And the information is not just about the value of the home, it gives them more in-depth information
Right.
about the interest rate, the market, what's going on.
And it gives a place, it gives a place for them to click and say, Dave, I got this, I would like to verify HomeBot's value of my home, and you get an email saying they opened it, and HomeBot, like Zillow, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. We don't care, we want the interaction. Hey Mary, thanks for reaching out. I did a more specific analysis of your home's value, and I think this is the ballpark of it. But again, your picture's on the email, and Rima's right. I think a lender pays for it for us. I don't think, I'm not even sure I pay for it, but anyway.
You pay for certain, they pay for a certain number, and then
Yeah,
anything exceeds that.
right. And so it's both the lender has some exposure as well as you, the realtor. So there's a lot of just tools out there, and I understand money is money, but if you even invested $300 to $400 a month in doing some of this, you would find your impact on your clientele.
I like how you said that every 3 months, your clients are getting in touch.
Right.
And Keller Williams have that system called DTD2. And that will, doing the DTD2 system, you will add you will add your clients to a command and then tag them based on the letter of the week that you need to call those clients.
Yeah.
By doing that, every week you have your number of clients set to start going
Right.
down that week. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can be a phone call, it can be a text, it can be, you kind of have to know your clients, like I know some clients are not gonna answer the phone. So I text them and say, hey, I was in your neighborhood today, your house looks great, how are you enjoying it? Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And then, I'm also big on babies, if they're, a lot of my younger clients, when they put on Facebook the little picture of them with the baby, you know, ultrasound, I count 9 months and put it on the calendar, check with them, see if they had the baby, look at their Facebook page, see if they had the baby, then a baby gift goes out. So, again, it's just being aware, having a system in place so that your calendar's telling you what to do every day.
I also borrowed your idea of doing investing the property the taxes. And it gives some success with some clients, there was no way we can do this. So it's
But you know what, I will tell you, and again, I've probably this year had 40 to 50 people reach out and want me to get tested. 45 of them are wrong, meaning the auditor's value is actually lower than what their home is worth. But even that's a great information for them. I send them an email that says, this is good news, bad news. You know, the good news is your home is worth far more than what the auditor's taxing you for. The bad news is your taxes are going to go up. So even that, I tell you what is great about that is they are raising their hand and saying, Rima, you're our expert. You tell us what to do. I had one couple, and this is where our auditors' websites are phenomenal. And you know, you can even do a tax estimator that tells them the difference of what their taxes are going to be with the new number. And I had one couple call me and text me and say, would you run it for us? And they were close. I could have made an argument that made their home about $20,000 less than what the auditor said, but I told them it would save them $83 a month. And they, yeah. She emailed me back and she goes, nah, nah, ROI on that is not worth a visit to the auditor. She looked at it and said, that's not worth a trip downtown, you know? So again, but you know, if you watch the ads, there's attorneys charging $1,500 to do that for people. And for you to say, hey, I'll do it for nothing. Just tell me give me your address, let me run it for you. And if the auditor's high, I will write a letter that says, here's the data, it's high, and you just hand, like the lady who emailed me this morning, I just went in and handed it to him, you know, and said, this is, we're contesting it. And then after December 1st, which is when they'll certify the values, then you get the thank yous. People, well, you may say, thank you so much, I got the new value and they lowered our, because what I have found, at least the last time I do this, is almost always the auditor gives them the lower value, because again, they're not going to go back and forth. And as long as they brought in something of substantive third party saying, yeah, that's it, they're going to say, yeah, you can do that. So again, you couldn't pull those people from me. You know, they're white knuckling it onto me the next time they sell a home. There's no way a realtor's going to steal them, because they're going to say, no, you know, this is our realtor. She gave us this information and she's always been helpful to us. And that's what you want to build. You want to build that kind of brand loyalty that says, you know, this is our person, this is who we're going to.
And also about nurturing your clients for a long time. Most of my closings actually are like 40 years, 3 years, which is
well, downsize Columbus.
I don't quit, and just I just let it go, because that way my pipeline is getting filled. But at the same time, I know I'm not for this deal.
Yeah.
I'll probably get paid down the road. So
yeah, our downsize Columbus people are almost never that year. It's when they die, have a stroke, or fall downstairs is when we hear from them, you know. But you're building that relationship. And you know, I tell my son this all the time because he's new and he wants to make money next month. And I tell him all the time, Christian, you've got to realize that person you meet today in an open house, you may not get paid for 18 months from them, but if you're in this business, if you're going to be in this business for 18 months, then you stick with it. I just got a text today. And I don't even do open houses that often, but I did one recently. I think one of my team members couldn't do it and I did it. And this sounds terrible, so don't do what I do. But I just am not even really work hard at them because I really don't want the buyers, you know? I'm like, it's all right. So, but I did. This one kid came in with his dad And he said, yeah, we're looking for a house, blah, blah, blah. So I did my shtick about, you know, I can help you. And I didn't even bother taking his name and number, because like I said, I don't really care. But I gave him my business card. Oh, I got an email from him today. He said, I don't know if you remember, I met you at this open house with my dad, and we're ready to get going. And I kind of went, oh, shoot. Oh, well, I guess I have to do it. Yeah. But no, a lot of it is, again, it's just putting yourself in that position, you know, being purposeful about your actions and what you're doing so that you can, you know, but again, if I'd never heard from that kid, I'd probably be okay, not think about it. But again, what is lead generating? Is finding a person who has a real estate need and making your service available to them of what they can do. And now you do that long enough, every month that phone is ringing with people who you met 3 years ago. So then it becomes your pipeline, and then you're in business, then you're good to go. All right, thank you all. Thanks for coming.
Kathy, we can't get enough of you.
Oh, you're wonderful, Raina.
We're
Thank
out
you.
there. Hosting you.
Look like you were pulling out.
I know.
Did it regulate enough? Because I can't.
Oh, then it got cold.
I know, I'm cold again. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. But I saw Kat take her sweater off. I thought,
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be a permanent thing here.
I'm gonna put her on. Her third one.